You can get this product and so much more at www.safariltd.com. And don't forget to use the coupon code SpinoDude to save 15% on your next order and show your support for the channel. Greetings, hello ladies and gentlemen, and today we have the new for 2020 Safari Ltd Dilophosaurus. This is the last figure that I have to review for the 2020 range, and I want to send a thank you out to Safari Ltd, as always, for sending this figure over to the channel. Alright, so when I first saw the promo images for this figure, I wasn't fussed. I just thought it looked kind of boring and uninspired. It looked fine as a Dilophosaurus, but then the in-hand stuff started coming out, and I saw how tiny it was. Like, this thing is really small, so I just wasn't too fussed on getting it, but I decided to finally get it just to finish reviewing all of the 2020 figures, and I must say, I am pleasantly surprised. Even though I'm disappointed with the size here, I think this is a nice little figure, and is certainly much better than Safari Ltd's Concavenator, which we just reviewed recently. So we're going to start off by doing a measurement of this one, just to show you how small it is. So in terms of the length from the tip of the snout to the tip of the tail, we are looking at about 6.5 inches, which is about 15 centimeters. And in terms of the height at the highest point, which is the top of the crest, we are looking at about 3.5 inches, which is about 8 centimeters. And I'm also going to do my comparison off the bat here to show you why I'm kind of disappointed with the size. And here is the Safari Ltd 2017 Coelophysis. I was really hoping for a Dilophosaurus that was at least in similar size to this Coelophysis so I could just display them together, but as you can see, the Coelophysis kinda dwarfs the Dilophosaurus at the end of the day. And Dilophosaurus was substantially larger than Coelophysis in real life, so that is kind of a disappointment for me, but I can say with full confidence now that the size is my biggest problem with this figure. But anyway, besides my initial disappointment with the size after seeing in-hand pictures before getting it myself, of course, I wasn't fussed on the colors. I thought they were kind of boring and generic, but in hand I really like the way the colors are applied. If we zoom in here, there's some really nice gradients and washes throughout, especially on the tail. I really like the banding. That's some really great paint work going down the tail, of course. And then just the sort of grayish blue wash across the body with the reddish brown color brought in on the sides of the torso, I think looks really nice, and that reddish brown color comes in on the neck as well. So overall, I really like the way the colors turned out in hand here. Alright, now as far as actual detail goes on the sculpt here, it's nothing special. It probably could have been better in some areas, but there are some nice wrinkles and folds in the skin, particularly around the limbs on the animal. And the toned musculature on the limbs is also quite nice as well. One of my favorite parts of the sculpt overall, though, is how long the tail is. They did not skimp out on the length of the tail here, and I think paired with just that really cool banding pattern going down it, it just adds a lot to the overall visual appeal of this model. Now, the biggest cause of debate with this model when it was first released was the head, and just seeing how small this figure is, I'm a little bit more forgiving of the size of the head. If the camera will focus, please. The head here is overall my least favorite part of the entire sculpt. It overall has a cute look to it though, I will say. But for being a Dilophosaurus head, the eye is way too big and is set too far forward. It should be back a little bit. And my complaint that I had before with it was that the notch wasn't pronounced enough, and I assumed this was because of the presence of lips. But now that's not inaccurate anymore, because as most of you probably know, Dilophosaurus had a slight makeover earlier this year, and mainly with how its head was reconstructed. So now with the new reconstruction of Dilophosaurus' skull, we now know that the notch was not as pronounced as we previously thought, but even though the head is more accurate now, that also presents another issue in that we think that Dilophosaurus was slightly more bulky than we previously thought. So this figure was announced at the end of 2019, of course, and you see it has a more slender Coelophysis-esque body, but now we think that it had a little bit more bulk on its body, and also had a more powerful and muscular bite. And then the other thing, of course, are the double crests where Dilophosaurus gets its name. I think the orange color used on the crests here is just a tad bit too bright and doesn't really meld well with the rest of the paint application on the model. And another thing that the new study on Dilophosaurus presented is that we actually know a lot less about the actual shape of Dilophosaurus's iconic crests than we initially thought. So Dilophosaurus's crests could have been much different from what we're we're used to seeing, as in this more classic depiction of the crest shape here. They probably had some sort of keratinous covering over them that gave them some more unique shaping. Anyway, I think that covers the overall sculpt and everything and my thoughts on it. But another thing is the pose on this one. I really like the pose. I thought it was going to be a tripod actually, but it's not. If we zoom in on the tail there, look, it's just barely hovering off of my desk. So that is really nice, but it's not super obvious, and the tail, of course, is a good fail-safe in case the legs give out and it can just lean back on its tail. But I think it's a really nice, relaxed, elegant pose overall, and I think it stands out pretty well on the shelf for being such a small figure. Alright, well I think that does it for my thoughts on the Safari Ltd 2020 Dilophosaurus. I have to say, overall, this one is more of a pleasant surprise for me in hand. It's still not one of my favorite figures from the 2020 range, but I definitely like it quite a bit better from the promo images and the initial in-hand images I saw. It's pretty cute, it's got a nice pose, nice paint, and makes for a nice little theropod to throw on your shelf. I just wish it was more around the size of the Coelophysis from 2017, because this one, just like the Concavenator, feels like it's more of a minifigure than an actual part of the Wild Safari prehistoric line. But anyway, guys, if you want to get one of these for yourself, make sure to use the coupon code SpinoDude at checkout to save 15% on your next order at SafariLtd.com and to show your support for the channel. Let me know what you guys think of this one down below, and I'll see you all in my next video. So take care, and bye-bye.